Hey there, I'm Sean Collins, and I'm the esports reporter with the Dallas Morning News. I cover OpTic Texas of the Call of Duty League, and I just wanted to give my updated power rankings after the Pro-Am. I know it wasn't for CDL points, but I do think that we learned a decent amount about a lot of the teams in the league and where everybody might stand going into Major 3 qualifiers. If you like this kind of content, make sure to leave a like. If you disagree or agree with something, leave a comment, and I'll reply, and subscribe if you enjoy it. So, getting straight into it, I think that the only S-tier team specifically when healthy and have all four players is OpTic Texas still. Their Major 2 is kind of rough, but their Pro-Am suggested, even with General in the lineup, that they are still very much the phase killer, and they have the highest ceiling and have great consistency. For that reason is why I can't put Atlanta FaZe into that S-tier. That was the match against OpTic for them on Saturday was a must-win for FaZe. The fact that they couldn't do it when OpTic had a substitute in the match. General played really well, so it's not even disrespect to him as much as OpTic had literal days to practice together with that squad, and General and Illy are not the same player. So it wasn't just filling in anybody. I still think FaZe is the second best team in the league, but until they beat OpTic, I'm not sure they get to be up in the S tier again, unless OpTic really fumbles and falters, which I don't really see. New York Subliners make the biggest jump for me. I was pretty impressed with how well Kismet fit into the lineup. Obviously, they won the Pro-Am, so that's pretty impressive, but they also kind of just dominated the Pro-Am. None of their matches were really particularly that close. They had some close maps, and they lost a few maps, but they just looked so good in all three modes, so I also think the Boston Breach still belong in that A tier. They didn't make it to top 4 on Sunday, but I do think that they've still been one of the most consistent teams in the league, which is why I still think they belong in that A tier. And if they're not in the A tier, they're at the very top of the B tier. The B tier is where things get pretty messy. I do think what I have here is my order for the power rankings, with the left being strongest, right being the weakest, but teams like LA Thieves, LA Gorillas, they're just a little bit too inconsistent for me to put them up higher. Seattle's pretty inconsistent as well, but I do think that their highs are really high. And the fact that Toronto Ultra has now gotten top 4 in 2 different tournaments, despite being arguably the worst hardpoint in the league, suggests that, they're still just a few adjustments away from being an A-tier team, and a couple tournaments away from being an S-tier tournament team again. I think that the Florida Mutineers are good as well. They didn't perform nearly as well in this Pro-Am as they could have, but I still think that the Mutineers are in that top 5, top 6 era. In the C tier, I think these two teams make sense, but I did move the Paris Legion up from the D tier to the C tier and ahead of the Minnesota Rocker. I think that Paris has made obvious strides to be a better team, and thus I think that they can beat a lot of the teams in the league. Probably not anybody A tier and up, but I think that they can beat any of those B tier teams if they play well. Minnesota Rocker, I still think that they can win matches. Their search and destroy fundamentals are still good, but they just need to clean up a lot of other things, and they just added a new guy, so I'm interested to see how they do in Stage 3 before I bump them up. But anyway, those are my power rankings.